Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to the session on sustainability in program design and evaluation. My name is Amal Nasrallah, and I'm the Regional Director of Monitoring, Evaluation, Accountability, and Learning at Amideast. Well, part of our effort at Amideast is to develop our institutional learning about factors that affect the sustainability of our programs. This is part and parcel of our meal effort. We understand, of course, that program sustainability is an area where many programmatic and contextual factors come into play. But we are looking into what could possibly be done to increase the likelihood of program sustainability. And what will happen when sustainability is thought about right from the program start, when the program sustainability is reflected in the program design, catered for in the program activities, monitored and evaluated throughout the program life cycle. It's my pleasure to moderate this session and converse with the two session presenters on the process of designing a sustainability plan and evaluating its effectiveness for an activity establishing disability service centers at 5 public universities in Egypt. The Disability Service Centers activity is one component of the US-Egypt Higher Education Initiative, a public university scholarship program, funded by USAID, supported by the Egyptian Ministry of Higher Education and implemented by Amideast. I would like first to introduce our presenters. We have Quincy Dermody. She is the Chief of Party of the US-Egypt Higher Education Initiative Public University Scholarship Program. Quincy has over 17 years of experience in international education and development programs, primarily in the MENA region. At Amideast Egypt, she is currently the COP of the HEI scholarship program that includes an inclusion component, including scholarship for students with disabilities. Our second presenter is Dina Mohsen. Dina is the Operation and Disability Program Manager at Amideast Egypt. And she has more than 10 years of experience in project management and operations at medical and development programs. She is now the Operation and Disability Program Manager at Amideast Egypt, managing the disability component of the US-Egypt Higher Education Public University Scholarship Program. Please, let's encourage you to post your questions in the chat box as you occur to you throughout the session. And of course, we'll take it after the presenters are done with their presentation. Okay, let's start by my first question to the presenters. We would like actually to have an overview of the main objective of the HEI program and what is the purpose of the accessibility component in this program.
Sure. Thank you, Amal, for the nice introduction. This is a great program and we've really enjoyed running it so far. Really, the long-term expected impact of the Higher Education Initiative Public University Scholarships Program is the economic growth of Egypt by preparing youth from disadvantaged backgrounds for the 21st century labor market. The scholarship is part of an overall higher education initiative, USAID funded, and an investment in Egypt's future. The scholarship is inclusive. On the scholarship, we have students from a wide variety of backgrounds. We have women and we have students with disabilities. After the first 3 years of the scholarship program, and based on our experience and knowledge gained throughout the scholarship so far, we have added to this program a disability component to establish disability service centers at the 5 public universities that we work so closely with, so that we can not only ensure equal access for students with disabilities on the scholarship program, but other students at the universities as well.
Great. And at what point the program are at now?
So right now we're in the 7th year of a 10-year program. Since the program launched in 2015, we've had a total of 673 scholarships awarded to young men and women from all 27 governorates of Egypt. They're studying in 10 faculties at the top 5 public universities in the special programs. About half of the students are women and 7% have disabilities. So far, we've had 157 graduate, and 76% of those were employed within their first year. In addition to the university studies that the students receive, Amideast provides training in English language skills, in career preparation, leadership skills, and personal development, alongside of activities that allow students to apply what they've learned at university and in these training programs, such as community service projects, internships, and study abroad in the US. In addition to the scholarship program, we have worked with our 5 university partners to establish a disabilities center at each university.
Interesting about this University Disability Service Center as a component of the program. So I would like to know more about the Disability Center component. How and when in the program did you realize the needs of establishing this component?
Sure. As we implemented the scholarship program and we had more and more students with disabilities enrolled at the universities, we began to experience and learn what the universities were providing to the students and what common challenges were for students with disabilities in the different faculties. We supported the students with those challenges. We worked with the universities so the students would have everything that they needed. And we communicated these sorts of challenges to USAID. At that time, USAID was preparing for a needs assessment of higher education institutions in Egypt and their inclusion and their services for people with disabilities. So not long after, I think it was in 2017, that report was released. And then in 2018, Egypt's disability law, Law 10, was released, which actually required that Egyptian universities ensure equal access for people with disabilities. So there sort of was a building interest, a building need for universities to pay more attention to disability. They were very supportive. They really wanted to help students with disabilities, but maybe didn't always know exactly how, what to do, perhaps didn't have the funding for some of the equipment that they would have wanted to provide students with. And so USAID approached Amideast about using the knowledge we had about students with disabilities and our connections with these 5 top public universities to establish a disability center at each university.
Interesting. It seems like this was like really critical time for this to happen, you know, with the Egypt's disability law and the USAID needs assessment. So this all like together give birth to the idea. So let's talk more about what the program aimed to achieve when you decided to establish the disability service centers at public university in Egypt. What did you have in mind? What did you hope to achieve?
Sure.
Okay. First, thank you, Amal, for your nice introduction. When we talk about the objectives of our centers, when we designing the program, we wanted the sustainable centers that continue to meet the needs of the students with disabilities after the scholarship program ends. We aim to support the universities to achieve equal access of the students, not only of the students with disabilities, not only the HAI students. And we aim to improve the services provided to them all over the campus. At first, we set the general objectives of establishing the centers. Then we know generally about the role of the centers and what should they do for the students. But we wanted the centers themselves also to develop the details. So initially, our biggest concern was about the structure and legal consideration of establishing a center in the public universities. Once the MOU signs, then the universities selected the location, then they renovated those locations based on the accessibility universal standard we advised them to follow. We supported them by developing bylaws to establish the centers and to have their own bank accounts. We advised them to establish a board, and they hired the staff to work on those centers based on our recommendations for the right structure of the disability center. Then after that, we were able more to focus more on the details of the centers, what should the centers do, and what capacity building trainings and activities were needed to achieve this objective. As the establishment of those centers progressed and the capacity building training continued, we drafted a more specific, clear impact statement and theory of a change that all our efforts and steps for the establishment will lead to this clear impact, which is that all the students, all the qualified students with disabilities are able to access and fully participate in higher education in their desired field and based on their qualifications. Because the public universities are inclusive environment that empower them and remove the barriers and provide them with a suitable accommodation. This brings me to talk about the M&E system and the sustainability and how to measure that. Our original design has a sustainability components that are built in the structure, but we left it open to further adjustments, and those adjustments are added based on the program monitoring. The initial framework of the centers, and after we have the initial framework of the centers, and after we have the gap analysis completed, we had an idea about the centers, what could do, and we could clearly outline indicators. And throughout the project time, we could clearly outline additional indicators to measure the impact and to measure the sustainability. Let me talk a little bit about the centers rule and activities and the output expected from those activities. The disability centers should track the students with disabilities and create a network. So the centers will be the central point to communicate the regulation and coordinate the services provided for all the students with disabilities inside the campus. The centers should share the information so that the students with disabilities are aware with their rights and aware with the centers and aware with the disability law and with the university regulation. The centers also entitled to establish a system to track the students enrolled in the university and track their needs, track their complaints. Also, the centers should be responsible for supporting the professors, so the professors are able to deal with the students with disabilities and able to give them a suitable accommodation. Also, the centers will are providing equipment access. Students with disabilities now have the access to some assistive technology that we purchased and we provided the centers with. The centers should have a plan for the accessibility for all the university campus. Our goal that the campus will be physically accessible. And the center should engage the students inclusively. The center should provide activities that include students with disabilities and without disabilities. Using our knowledge in the public universities and our experience with the students, scholarship students enrolled at the universities and experience with their issues and needs, and from the results of the need analysis, we designed centers with the sustainable features.
Interesting, actually. I found what you're saying is very interesting, Dina, is like you did not embark on developing a full-fledged sustainability plan because you are starting a new component on Disability Service Center. But you've just like really laid out your initial skeleton, and then you are adding to this plan as you go on, and building. And this is the learning part of the process here, that you're building on your knowledge on of the public university and how it works. and your experience with your scholars, so that when you are developing your indicators, you're well aware of the feasibility of these indicators. So this is really quite interesting what you're saying here. So how has the program supported these centers to serve the purpose they are established for?
So really, we are working on 4 pillars for the centers. The first one, that's the policy, advocacy, and the system. We ask the ministry support, try to create a channel to have their support and to have show them the work of the center and convince them that this experience can be replicated all over the universities, even it's a public or private universities. We push the centers to work closely with the university leadership, faculty representative, and the existing unit that supported the students with disabilities. We also work on the other pillar is the capacity building training. We provide the study tour for the staff, for the disability center, and for the leaders to explore the new ideas. And returning back to Egypt, they start to apply what they learned there. We provide the capacity building training, either in the management or in the disability topics. We provide the regular coaching and guidance to the disability center staff, or to the professor, or to whomever, or to the students with disabilities. The third pillar is awareness raising. We try to encourage the center and to support the center in network building, either networking with the other units inside the campus or with other NGOs that work in the disability, and with other donors, or even the private sector to employ the students with disabilities after their graduation. We support in the promotion on the social media about the centers, and we provide them with a marketing training, for example, so they can advocate themselves more clearly. The fourth pillar is accessibility support. We provide a physical accessibility report to the university, so they can follow when they are ready to make all the buildings accessible. We provide them, we coach them how to make the buildings accessible, and we purchase the equipment and the assistive tools needs based on the students' needs and based on the study tour that we did before.
Great. So this is like how the program really helped these centers really serve the purpose they were established for. Let's now move about really preparing them to be sustainable. And how has the program design and activities contributed to sustainability here, and the thoughts about the sustainability of these centers?
Sure. So we really focused on sustainability from the design stage on, because there's not much point in starting a center that's only going to last for as long as we're engaged in the activity. In that situation, we could just provide those services. So I think that when we were planning for the program, the main ideas for sustainability were that the university is a true partner on the program. This is not a center that we came in and established at the university and then hand over. This is a program that we developed collaboratively together, that has always been staffed by the people that the university hired, that the university and the staff of the center.
I think that we lost Quincy here. Dina, would you like to take over until Quincy is back?
It's okay. Yeah. Okay. So as Quincy said, that we consider the sustainability throughout the program. This was done through making them networking and have a true partnership and have the full university buy-in. Not only the leadership, no, all the faculties and all the students with disabilities and all the employee inside the campus. We also another point is the structural and the policy regulatory considerations, that we learn them how to establish a system, how to put bylaws. We drafted them a bylaws so they can follow, and anyone can follow this system, even if the staff just gone or are not existed anymore. So we learn them how to build a system, and we try this from the first day of the program, because we are preparing them that we will go. We will not be forever with them to support them. We try to push them to raise the awareness about in the campus, about raise awareness about how to deal with the disability and how to deal with the students with disabilities, and having like we make them, we learn them how to be flexible, with the different plans, with the different situations, how to deal with the different, because the problem in the public universities is that the staff eventually will go, and the leaders eventually will go. So we will learn them how to advocate for the center, and provide them the capacity building training, which is a very important point in the sustainability, our sustainability plan. We provide them the capacity building training in the technical part, which is the disability part, and in the managerial, to develop their managerial skills.
Great. Quincy, you're back. You were interrupted, so Dina took over, and she actually giving us the elements of the sustainability plan that you discussed with the universities. Would you like to add anything? Well, I think that you need to unmute yourself, Quincy.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think Dina really covered it. I think that key to our sustainability plan was a foundation, a structure from the beginning, considering how the outlines of that center would be, and then the ability to be flexible and to make adjustments in the specifics as we moved forward, based on what we observed in the centers, based on new needs that developed, and so that our capacity building training could adapt and change as we move forward to continually ensure that our centers would be sustainable.
Yeah. What I particularly like about it, like as an external evaluator myself, is this approach of really, really mapping out elements of sustainability, building capacity around these elements, or ensuring that they are in place. And then you are monitoring implementation and come back to these elements, reflecting on these elements and identifying further needs, further capacity building, further kind of like institutionalization. So this is really quite kind of different in the way you are building up your model. So you are not like building the model or mapping out the model from the very beginning, but you are building parts of these models as you go along, which is, I think, different in your case. And speaking about evolutions here, because it seems that you are incrementally, you are trying to see your big picture here about the sustainability of the center and what they need to have in place before the program comes to an end. So what evolution have you seen in the program activities to improve sustainability?
So as you mentioned, Amal, and as Quincy mentioned, that the program reflects regularly on the progress and the challenges. And we have the input of the center managers and the feedback on the regular basis, so we can determine what certain adjustment needs to be made. We can take some examples here. Like for the study tour program, at first we didn't decide that we will invite the leaderships. The study tour are listed in our program to the disability manager and the deputy manager only. But after a while, we decided to invite the leaders. We realized that the presence of the leaders is very important, to have their support and to incorporate them more inside what we do, and build a common understanding of the center objectives and goal. So we invite leadership, university leadership, and also we invite a representative from the Ministry of Higher Education. Following the tour, we found that there is a demand to have a disability committee, and we raised this concern to the Ministry of Higher Education, and because they already engaged in our project through the study tour, they convinced that there should be a disability committee, and the ministry showed the interest that to expand this model to other universities. And so we adjust our plans to support this committee, because we should advise on this committee. So we adjust our plans to do that. Like another example in the capacity building training, when the centers become bigger and the staff, more and more staff join, we notice that there's they need some communication skill training to develop their capacities and to learn them how to work as a one team. So it's we add this training to our trainings, and it doesn't existed before. When we see the impact of the training, we know that it's working. And like another example, like the proposal writing training, doesn't existed before that we will do a proposal writing training. But after we see the needs of the staff, and after we see that necessity that to have a sustainable center, they should learn how to write a proposal to donor and how to fund themselves.
Great. So it seems like you are constantly evaluating the needs, the emerging needs, the evolving needs, the further identified needs of these centers to maintain their role in the future. So what is your mechanism here? How do you evaluate the needs of these centers to maintain their role in the future after the program comes to an end?
Sure. So we're regularly monitoring the centers. So the centers are operating independently on their own, and we are coordinating with them, communicating with them on a regular basis to know what it is that they're doing, what's working well, what they need support in, or what questions they have. And in the program design, we set a framework and objectives, but many of the details are developed as we implement. So that happens through sort of constant evaluation, constant monitoring, and reflection on what is happening on the program, and looking ahead to what we want to happen on the program. So at least quarterly, and before in the planning for significant activities on the program, we look at the desired outputs and outcomes. So what we're trying to achieve, and if any of the steps need to be changed to reach that outcome. If things are working well, if we need to make adaptations. We always look in these reflections at the expected elements of sustainability. We outlined before, there are things that we put in place to ensure sustainability. We look at, are those working? Or is there something that needs to be modified? Or is there something else that we should be doing, like some of the examples that Dina gave earlier? And then reviewing the results of activities, so that when we've planned an activity afterwards, we can assess, did we get the outcome from that we were hoping, or do we need to make some changes and try some new things? And then looking at risks or challenges. So are there any problems either that we're noticing or that center managers are telling us about that they are worried about, and what can we do to mitigate those risks or address those challenges? I think, with COVID, this program has stretched out longer than it was originally supposed to, which has actually been beneficial in a number of ways. It's really allowed us to do this reflection not more frequently, but reflecting on longer periods of time that the centers have been managing themselves and implementing their programs. So we've had a great opportunity to look at what's going on and make adjustments as we move forward. So I think in a lot of ways we've been lucky with the time that we have, that we could extend it within the program that we have, so that we have the time to really stop and reflect regularly.
Yes, so this is like really among the few teams that they have perceived COVID time as kind of a blessing in disguise, you know, like this is a time for reflection. So would you share with us more examples of the needs you have identified through these reflection times, and how do you plan to support these centers, these identified needs before the program ends?
Okay. We discovered many needs while we go through the project. Like, for example, networking with other NGOs and the donors and other units in the disability in the university. We support the center in that. We supported them by having like introducing others to them, like figuring out private sector companies that they can connect, so they can know, for example, know the requirements to employ the students with disabilities. We use our network to make a networking to the center, so that they can use this network even after the program ends. Another example, like having the support of the Ministry of Higher Education, as I mentioned before. And that's why we think that it's important to have a disability committee at the Ministry of Higher Education, so that this disability committee can replicate our model to other universities and can use the policies that we put and all the project documents and apply to another universities other than the 5 we worked with. Another example, like we found that the centers should know the needs of the students continuously. We had a gap analysis at the beginning of the program, and we are planning to have another gap analysis to measure the changes and to tackle the students' needs. And also we are pushing the center to have a complaint system. Yes, they receive the students with disabilities issue and they solve these issues, but still there should be a big complaint system to track those issues. Another example, we have that we noticed that the center staff has some issues in report writing, in collecting the data, in show how they develop themselves or talk about their success. So one of our training, capacity building training, is to provide a training for the data management and for report writing and how to establish a system. And this will help them to complete and to be sustainable and to even get another funds after the program ends.
Interesting. This gap analysis that you referred to, like you did it twice at the beginning and sometime in the progress of the program. Were you doing it with them? Doing it for them?
We have first the needs assessment that we got from the USAID at the beginning of the project. Then we have the first gap analysis. We don't just make them make this study or this gap analysis. We involve them and train them to like it's like a TOT, to train them how to make it after we go. So they are qualified now to make it, but we guide them. And like at the first, we guide them. We bring them a consultant, and we guide them how to write like how to write the data and how to put the survey, how to collect the data, then they are able now to do another gap analysis before the end of the project.
Yeah, this is an important tool actually, and a mechanism for even center management with or without the sustainability angle here, but even for the center management. So in your view, how could program sustainability add to the program outcomes and impact here? With all this effort done to foster sustainability, how would it contribute and expand on the program impact and outcomes?
So the real purpose for establishing these centers is to help the universities to ensure that people with disabilities at the universities have equal access to higher education. And for the period that we are running this program, establishing the centers, we know that the centers are providing services. We know what those services are, but unless the centers are sustainable, the university won't necessarily continue providing those services consistently. And so by creating a sustainable center, more students will be served. So moving forward, any student with disability who comes through the university can be assured that they have the accommodations that they require, or that they have access to the faculties that they are interested in joining. And then I think that there's a cumulative impact as well on society. So the impact of what we're doing, what the centers are doing, is not necessarily immediate. Yes, it helps students there now with accommodations. However, for example, studying computer science, there aren't a lot of students with disabilities in the faculty of computer science, possibly because they weren't accepted into that faculty before, or because students with disabilities didn't believe that they would be accepted into that faculty in the past. So the more that students are receiving accommodations and that faculty members are being supported to accommodate those students, the more graduates there will be entering the workforce in those fields. The more that society will see that people with disabilities are able to work in those fields, and there are qualified graduates from universities who do get jobs in those fields. And then more students with disabilities will be likely to want to enter those fields. I think one of the challenges that we've faced is many students who are in schools, say a school for the blind specifically, they're only studying arts and not studying math and science. And that just eliminates a large number of majors for that pool of students. However, if a visually impaired student knows that they can study computer science at university, they may be more likely they'll be able to prepare in high school for that longer term track. So by ensuring that there's equal access now, it impacts sort of a wider, generations that are coming into university in terms of their expectations and perceptions. So I think definitely the effect on the program outcomes of sustainability are not just, yeah, it's great that the center keeps going, but it's much wider. It's not only that it will continue serving students at the university, but those students who've had the accommodations, the benefit of being able to study at the university as they would like to, will have a much wider impact on society as well. I mean, that's the hope anyway of a sustainable center.
Sure.
And then
yes.
Self-reliance.
Yeah. Yes, because I was actually thinking while you are talking now is that with or without the sustainability component, the nature of the program itself, of the component itself, really has many inherited challenges. Changing the mindset about this and the rights of disabled students to join the discipline that they are interested in studying. So this is a challenge, inherited challenge that comes with a choice of working on this component as part of the scholarship program. But now let's move to the challenges of really working on the sustainability so that it won't be like everything is rosy. I'm sure that you must have encountered or even identified some challenges here. So what are the challenges you faced in working on your sustainability plan for this program?
Talking about the challenges, we can talk about the main challenges. Yeah, there are many challenges, and we are trying to overcome some of them, and some of them maybe not out of control, but need more time. One of those challenges is the time. So to build the sustainable centers, we build it collaboratively with the universities. We getting their input and their feedback and encourage them to have the ownership. So having the ownership and having many things in their control, taking a longer time than just giving them rules or instructions to follow. So we need them to rely on themselves. We need to develop their independency so they can take the decisions even after we go. So this may be the challenge because it takes a longer time. Another challenge is the staff changes. We engage the leadership and we engage the vice presidents, but the problem that the vice presidents had a certain time then they will retire. The centers usually or continuously need our support to engage the leadership, to explain the goal of the centers. Maybe by having the procedure manual that control the operation of the centers. Sorry. This will make things easier in future. So even if the leadership or anyone has gone, there will be a system and the university can train people. Another, in the staff changes also, I want to say that we invest a lot in training people there in the center, but eventually they will go. So again, having a system spreading the awareness and the knowledge, this will make the project not depend on persons, it will depend on the system. Another challenge is giving some control to the universities. We have a challenge we have a challenge here that we should keep the balance between the objectives of the project and that the program should be on track, and at the same time the centers and the university has some ownership and they feel control and they just maybe making some activities and some initiatives. We should keep this balance, and this considered as a challenge. Another point is the finance. The centers needed to be supported in the financial basis, even in the university stuff or the operation of the center or the training and activities. Now the universities are supporting the staff and supporting some costs of the centers. And we are pushing the centers to have a separate bank account so they can receive the donation, and we train them how to write proposals so they can get funds and get donations. Now we have a model of sustainable disability service centers. The problem that we have it, the center is operating now with the quality that we are monitoring. After the program ends, maybe the center will operate as we build it, but we're afraid that maybe the quality of the services or the quality of the objectives will be affected. And we are now trying to think in the sustainability from the quality perspective, not just sustainability. No, we need the system, the centers to compete with the quality, with the desired quality as it is running now. And that's why we train them how to build a system. We give them some time before the program ends so they can be independent enough and have their own mechanism.
Yeah, so interesting actually what you're saying about really building a system and not training staff. I mean, you're not training individuals, you are building a system where those individuals are in. So regardless if there is a turnover, if those individuals leave, the system remains for the new hires to operate it. And what you're saying about really is not that the centers will remain in existence after the program comes to an end, but the quality of the services provided by these centers is what matters for you the most here. So you're holding them accountable for the quality of the services as they are providing it now with quality. Interesting. And I really think that you can tell us something about from this rich experience. How should program sustainability also be supported by the program stakeholders? I mean, you are one of the stakeholders. The program staff and management is one of the stakeholders. How would you perceive the different roles of the stakeholders in the sustainability plan?
I think there's really a role for everyone in regards to sustainability, from the first program design, the donors design and thoughts about how the program should be designed, right through implementation, then monitoring and evaluation. I think sustainability can really only be successful if everybody is on board. Everyone has to agree about where the program is going and how it's going to achieve that sustainability if it's going to be successful. So I think considering sustainability at all stages and with all the stakeholders is really important. I think that oftentimes sustainability fails due to little things, not the big technical theory of how it's going to work, but a small consideration maybe that wasn't even thought of before. Nobody had thought of this small piece. So I think continual evaluation, continual reflection on how a program is sustainable, what are the roadblocks, and what can be done to make adjustments along the way, I think is also really important. And that's for the implementers, but also for donors to understand that things are going to change throughout the implementation of a program if you really want to be actively making adjustments so that it's ultimately as sustainable as possible. And then I think that communication is really important for sustainability. One of the things that we've really tried with the centers is to make sure that we're communicating regularly within the centers, but also with all of the stakeholders, and branching that out even to NGOs that might later work with the centers. Everybody really understands what they are there for, what their purpose is moving forward, so that there's no confusion later, or so that it's easy to continue to work together, for example, after the program ends. So I think that communication piece is also really important. And then just, sustainability isn't something separate that's part of M&E that we look at in isolation. I think it's really a part of everything that's done on the program. It's a part of all of the activities. It's really intertwined. So I think that again, that continual looking at sustainability and keeping it sort of forefront in the mind in all the decisions are really important.
Yeah, that's right. I think that you're right. You said that sustainability is kind of really part of the program journey, and you are building an M&E as means to this end. You're collecting, you're monitoring, you're collecting data to feed into this sustainability end. Great. This is really great, and we'd like to take questions from the audience at this point. And since we are a small group, I would actually invite you to either unmute yourselves and really share your thoughts, insights, comments, questions, or if you prefer to type them up in the chat box. And while you're doing it, let's take these two post questions really in reflection on everything that have been said today. Because you've built a cumulative learning out of this process, and in light of this accumulative learning that is being generated on this program, what would you change or add in the design of the disability component under this program in the future?
So I think that we've learned a lot about sort of the structure of a disability center and what works within a university. There are some things that I might have pushed on more at certain points in the program, emphasized as really important. For example, the universities provided the staffing for the centers. And that was important to us, that the staff for the centers come from the university. It's not someone external trying to be fit into the university culture. And that was good. But we didn't push at that point for exactly how the university would be paying those staff members, right? And I think that if we had put more effort early on into that, it would have alleviated some challenges later. So I think there are some structural things that I would have thought of to put more pressure on, or to that have a bigger impact on the program. I think otherwise the design, the structure is fairly strong. And I think the other thing maybe would be to have drafted policies earlier. I really do, I think it's important the way we've developed them all together. But I think having them written earlier might have been helpful.
Interesting. Interesting. Yes. And of course, this sustainability thinking and this evolved thinking about sustainability underpinning this model, how do you think that this thinking and the learning associated with it should be disseminated for future similar programs?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I was hoping that you were going to ask the audience that question and not me.
Yeah.
I think forums like this are a great opportunity to discuss some of these ideas. And then I think definitely these are the kinds of things that we do share with USAID about our approach, which can be considered as they're contemplating future programs as well. And I think when we started this program, one of the hopes, that we wrote in our proposal was that these centers would be a model for other disability centers at other universities. We didn't actually expect that we would have a chance to make that happen. And so I think that, that exploring those big ideas or the big possibilities of being able to spread a model further, working, through the university, with the university, I think is very important and very useful. So working within the systems that exist and trying to build as much as possible during the stretch of the program that you have.
Interesting. Of course, we'd like to listen from our audience, their take on any of these two questions. Now we have, yes. Okay, now, would you like to take this?
Yes. Are there any disabled students?
Yeah.
Yes.
Dina?
Yes. Actually, yes. And this happened in the 5 disability centers. They have people with disabilities that are working there, and they have also students with disabilities as volunteers there. They are volunteering to organize events and to disseminate the awareness. But they have, yes, my answer about this, yes, we have a working as a employee, as a regular employees there inside the center, with either with a physical disability or visual disabilities.
Yeah, I stopped by a picture that you actually put on one of your slides, where you're having kind of a conference room where some people on the wheelchair in the panel as well as the audience. So they were like really, so they are in different capacity, and they are different roles, different capacity, which is actually what is needed here. Okay. On the second question at the end, if we can go to the last slide here on the second questions about how should the sustainability thinking underpinning this model be disseminated for future similar programs. I personally think that presentations like these ones are very important to be like really disseminating this learning and this thinking. But in the same time, do you think that the centers would be able to articulate this model? really speak on their behalf about what happened and the sustainability thinking underpinning their own sustainability plan?
I think they wouldn't necessarily say sustainability plan. I mean, from their perspective, they started this center and it is going to keep going because it is important. And they might not use those words sustainability plan, but definitely they have opinions about how the centers should be run, what is most effective, what should be done. And it's interesting because they don't always even agree among themselves, right? So we have 5 centers at 5 different public universities. And while they are all doing the same thing generally, they do have somewhat different approaches based on the needs of their university, the structures of their university, you know, how regimented policies and procedures are or approvals are, you know, how much power a center manager can have or how much approval that manager needs to get from the center's board. So they are all slightly different, although they follow the same model. Dina, I think you have some thoughts on this too.
Yes, in this point specifically, Amal, I want to say that the center manager and the deputy center manager, they are professors at their universities. So they are not project managers or program managers. They don't know the terminology we use about M&E indicators and sustainability. They start to use those terms when we started the project and when we guide them or coach them and learn them and giving them capacity building trainings. But really, it's not easy for them. They just teach the students. It's not their work to make a plan and to make a list of indicators. And so this is a challenge, but I think we overcome this challenge all over the project. They are capable of communicating what they are doing, but maybe they need some push in the terminology.
Well, and I think that actually the way they communicate is very useful depending on the audience as well. So when we had our last conference in March, and we invited all the other universities in Egypt as well to participate. And we had a lot of different speakers, but our center managers and the vice presidents also spoke at this conference about the disability centers, what they were doing, what the objectives are, you know, what they'd achieved, what worked well. And I think that if it had been me and Dina speaking about the project in M&E terms or, you know, in project management terms, it wouldn't have been as impactful on the staff from other universities who really were much more prepared to hear about it from staff at universities, you know, the same sort of language of communication about these centers.
Yeah, at this point, we are interested in really them relating their own story, whether they are using the M&E language or the layman language, as long as they know how to communicate their story. Yeah. Any other questions to our presenters from the audience? Would you like to share anything with them? Okay, thank you very much. That was really quite insightful and get us really to think about the sustainability of development programs and what we can take from this experience in other programs as well. So I'd like to thank Quincy and Dina for really being quite transparent and quite open to their learning out of this very rich experience. Thank you very much. Thank you for our audience for staying with us in this session, and have a good day, evening to everyone. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.